addressed in the bill.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Mr. Tillis for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, all of you. I've had the belief that we do need a light regulatory regimen, but it has to be Goldilocks just right for us to really reemerge. I think, Mr. Yakum, you said that we're behind, but poised to catch up and maybe surpass. So I think that we have to figure out the way the markets and activities are properly regulated. But we also have to make sure that we don't have flight to foreign jurisdictions if we get this wrong. So I guess one question I'll have for you, Mr. Yakum, is what country is a best practice? If you fill in this blank, if you agree with it, if we would only implement a regulatory regimen like blank, we would be the head of the pack. Is there an answer to that question? Anybody here on the panel? We'll start with you.
Thank you for the question, Senator. Look, I think the U.S. needs to design rules and policy that are fit for the U.S. markets. I think we can look to other jurisdictions for examples, but the
In
U.S.
doing so, how do we develop a competitive advantage, jurisdictionally speaking, with what you'd consider to be a best practice today? What country is that, and why are they a best practice today?
I think if you look to the European Union, for example, and the United Kingdom, and again, other G20 markets, they've kept it simple. And they've said, look, these are a diverse group of asset class. We list over 300 assets on our platform. There's Bitcoin, there's stable coins, and many others. And they have very diverse characteristics. But if you start drawing complex lines and complex texts and bifurcate markets, that becomes problematic. So I think we can look to simplicity as an example.
Ms. Mazzari, you have anything to say to that?
I think this is a great question. I think maybe I'll focus a little bit on the stable coin front.
Yep.
I think proposals in the EU might make some mistakes. Proposals in the UK might make some mistakes, either in getting the reserve requirements too restrictive. Very few are too permissive. My concern with overly restrictive reserve requirements is it really makes it difficult for new entrants to come into the markets and instead favors...
Have you looked at any of the proof of reserves proposals here in Congress?
I haven't actually on the proof of reserves point. But I think if we get, to your point, the Goldilocks positioning just right, we can have better competitive markets for stablecoin issuance, which I think is what's really needed. I don't think we have that today with our duopoly.
Mr. Cohen, where do you think the biggest gaps are for the U.S.? What if you were instructing us on prioritizing tranches of regulations? What must come in the first tranche?
Thank you, Senator. One point you asked about regarding other jurisdictions and the U.S. and what we can take away, it's important to bear in mind the U.S. has a bifurcated market regulatory structure with the CFTC and the SEC. So right off the bat, one of the first things that needs to be done is have a clear policy around how market participants can determine, am I engaged in a securities transaction, am I not? That's caused immense consternation for everyone in the space, be they centralized exchanges, people who act as broker-dealers, issuers, and others. So as a priority matter, the Lummis-Gillibrand Responsible Financial Innovation Act would provide such a clear and bright line test. Is the asset one that's been issued by someone who is a legal issuer? Where that's not the case, the transaction in which those assets are sold may attract securities treatment, but secondary trading between Bob and Alice are not securities transactions. Once we put a line in the sand, the market can respond by creating appropriate frameworks for each of these two categories, those that are appropriately require disclosures of issuers and those that are more commodities-like and are treated in the similar way to Bitcoin and Ether.
Mr. Mussett, I'm really worried. I got a briefing from DEA, a classified briefing a couple of years ago, and just looking at anybody that thinks that transnational criminal organizations are carrying along suitcases of money now haven't paid attention to how illicit money laundering is occurring today, and it's mainly on these various platforms, particularly crypto platforms. How do we... You're absolutely right. Architecturally, we're not, AML-BSA, architecturally dealing with a centralized sort of process. Is there any jurisdiction out there that's found the secret sauce in how to, on the one hand, make the participants in payments and settlements response will, on the other hand, really be able to identify any of the kinds of patterns that we use for SARS and AML activities?
It's an excellent question, Senator. I don't think any jurisdiction has found the secret sauce yet. I think everybody's focused on this. I think it's going to be a combination of things. One is extending the kind of current framework to jurisdictions, to intermediaries who aren't complying. That's a big part of the problem. A second, though, is looking at this technology and trying to think about ways that we can sort of reach the same goals. And these ideas of essentially being able to program smart contracts so that transactions can't go through unless someone has been properly vetted is one that at least, I hear a lot of conversation about. You can also put more obligations on the stablecoin issuers than I think the current proposals do. We've seen Japan do that. We've seen other countries do that, where they require more aggressive monitoring and freezing of stablecoins. Yeah.
It's easy for some class of stablecoin issuers. If you happen to be a bank, it's not so easy with some of the other ones. So we look forward to the continued discussion. Thank you.
We're pleased to welcome Senator Werner. Do you need a minute?
I am